Welcome to the Distorted Realities Origins Audiocast. Vampires. Here are your hosts, J. Rock, Frank Walls, and Mr. Valentine.
All right, folks, welcome to the Distorted Realities Audiocast Origins Vampires. This is J. Rock. I'm alongside Mr. Frank Walls.
What up, guys?
And Mr. Valentine.
Greetings and salutations, friends.
And I got the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. J. Rock.
Thank you. I don't know why we're talking so low.
Good question.
I think it's all the vampire in us, right? Where we're just lurking and prowling for prey.
We're trying to be a little bit quiet.
So for those of you who don't know and you're checking us out for the first time, we're Distorted Realities. We usually have a show on Sundays, but the season is over. And now we're doing our origin section where we talk about specific cryptids, aliens, or origin stories pertaining to specific subject matter. And basically, we just gather information and we present it and make friendly conversation. And for those of you who like Distorted Realities or want to know more, you can check us out on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@distortedrealities. You could also check us out on Rumble, right? Yeah. Rumble.com/distortedrealities. And now we are available on podcast, right? Mm-hmm. So we can check us out on iHeartRadio. Just do a search on Distorted Realities. Amazon Music, Instagram, Distorted Realities.
You're forgetting one more. iTunes
that's
or
right.
the Apple Podcast. Yeah,
that is correct.
And Buzzsprout. There you go.
So you have us on all forums now. We just keep adding on as we go along. For those of you who are watching it on YouTube, you get this really cool AI video that was created. It's a little more cinematic than usual. It's going to keep playing in the loop with some background music. And I'm just making sure that those levels are okay. And the video is playing. Okay, so it is playing some audio. It kind of dies down a bit and then it goes back up. So, and we do have some background music, so eventually we'll take that out of the way. So with that being said,
yeah,
features of the night, right? Vlad Tepes, the historical...
The Impaler.
Also known as Vlad the Impaler, right? The Lord of Shadows, as some of us know it in the video game world, right? A lot that goes into this, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to segue and start it off, right? By making sure that if you are a fan of Distorted Realities, you click like and subscribe on YouTube channel.
Go ahead, do that.
Please.
Forums, right?
Helps us out a big deal.
Number two, the phone lines are open. So if you want to talk about vampires and you want to share your story, the phone lines are on the screen. But if those of you who are listening to it, the number is 904-803-7327. Again, 904-803-7327. And I'm going to turn it to Frank so he can say it in Spanish.
The Telemundo version, guys. Buenas tardes. Estamos aquí, Mr. Valentine, Mr. J. Rock y este servidor. Vamos a proveerle hoy la historia de los vampiros, de dónde sale todo este revolú de los vampiros, dónde nace esta leyenda que a muchos nos da terror. Entonces, saben que nos pueden contactar al número que está en pantalla, el 1904-803-7327, 904-803-7327. Estamos en TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Estamos en todos lados. iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, Buzzsprout. There you go. Esa palabra me. Anyway, y saben que pueden checar nuestra merch store, que también si van al canal de YouTube, está el link ahí del merch store, donde pueden entrar y comprar camisetas de lo que se está hablando hoy, o de nosotros, hay tazas, de todo, gorra, de todo un poco.
So,
gracias por el apoyo, mi gente.
That's right. So we want to give a huge shout out to Westman.
Westman.
Yeah. He came out with a music video. Ooh. It's called De Bichote.
De Bichote, allá de Isabela, Westman. Saludos a Westman.
Yeah. And that's pretty much it for all the segment of
General
notifications.
announcements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the big thing is that we're now on podcast and we can now stream to different types of media
So
sources.
if you guys ever miss an audio cast, you can go ahead and make your way to one of those 3 sites and have a little listen while drinking your coffee, drinking your
on a nice drive.
exactly, drinking your blood if you're a vampire, or sipping on ectoplasm if you're a ghost.
That's right.
If you're in traffic, you can listen to us, and have fun while you listen to us.
So before we begin, when you say vampire, you think of the word vampire. What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Frank, you want to answer this one?
The first thing that comes to my mind is Interview with the Vampire. Those very fine.
I think I know exactly who you're talking about.
Is it Brad?
No.
Is it Brad? Or Antonio Banderas?
It's Tom Cruise.
It's Tom Cruise. It's Tom Cruise.
He
Okay.
doesn't age. I think he's a vampire. No. One of my favorite movies is Bram Stoker's Dracula. That one, I saw when I was very young, and it was hard for me to understand it at first, but it was a great movie. Yeah.
Okay.
As for me, I think of the animal, the bat, because they're synonymous with transforming into bats and such. And I tend to think about Nosferatu because of that one bit from SpongeBob where they're like Nosferatu, and he just appears in the corner.
So vampire movies, right? They have been a staple in my life, right? There's one vampire that really stuck out to me, and it's Kurt Barlow, right, from the movie Salem's Lot. He resembles Nosferatu a great deal, but there was something eerily creepy about him. So that was the first time I saw a vampire that spooked me, right? And I don't know if it was the movie, how the movie was capturing that eerie mystique, but he had these glowing yellow eyes. He looked just like Nosferatu, but blue, like a real pale blue. And he was vicious. He was really powerful. Didn't look like Orlok from Nosferatu. So that's the name of the vampire, Orlok. We'll talk more about him later. But it came up to me and I was like, wow, like that stamped my childhood, right? It was a stamp on it, right? Now there's a great deal of movies and we're going to talk about that. But let's go back in time, right? Historically, right, vampires are pegged to one person, right? And his name, so I don't butcher it, I have it here on my notes. So let me just go in there. His name is Vlad Tepes, Tepes. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly or pronouncing it correctly, but 1428 to 1476, 77, around there, in Romania, he was the ruler there.
Yeah.
Now, there's a very eerie story behind this, right?
He was the third, Vlad the third.
He's the third,
The third ruler,
but
yes.
he was the second son of Vlad Dracul.
Dracula.
Right now, Dracula, right? Or Vlad Dracula. Dracula in and of itself means Order of the Dragon. So he was born into a sect or a
clan.
or a
group.
clan,
Yeah.
right? That was called the Order of the Dragon.
Remember that in that era also, like families will have like a crest.
A crest and
So maybe because they were wealthy and all that,
Right.
they had the
and
crest.
since the dragon is like a powerful
and
entity,
demonic.
yeah, they guard their money and they're really powerful. So that would make a lot of sense.
So he had a brother named Radu,
Radu.
right? So they were both children in their time, and then they were held hostages by the Ottoman Empire. They were sold as sex slaves.
Wow.
They were raped and abused and whatnot. And basically, they did this to try to be loyal to this father so that they can stay in rule, right? The oldest brother, and I think it's Mercia,
Yeah, Murcia.
was murdered in Hungary. Now, this led eventually to a whole lot of wars, and then eventually led to Vlad Tepes's rule. Now, what he did was that he would impale his enemies and put it pretty much in front of his castle to let people know, like, this is what you're gonna run into,
Don't mess with me.
right? So,
I hear he will put them in steak. Like
Yeah, at the stake.
yeah, the
Yeah, the
heads,
steak.
the heads and the bodies. Like he will put everything in like for people to see, and like you very much, if you want to mess with me, this is gonna happen. We're gonna
right.
so
So,
a steak.
so this, by the way, this took place in this is part of Wallachian history, right? In Romania.
Mhm.
And essentially, the stories say that he would bathe in the blood of his victims, and this led to this legend of how the blood gave him power beyond the normal human being, right? This was no bat transformation.
It was more immortality and,
Yeah, it was more like he was imbuing himself with energy and power because
Yeah.
the blood of his victims were on him.
mhm, mhm.
Right. The long and short, eventually he got killed. And he became, I guess,
Synonymous.
synonymous with the whole vampire thing. But how did that happen, right? Well, there was a gentleman by the name of Bram Stoker who wrote a book called Dracula as We Know It, and then that's the old guy who plays him in the Universal movies, Universal Monsters, Bela Lugosi, right?
Mm.
And it kind of told the story of some visitors going to the castle, and Dracula is kind of enticed with this female and wants her blood, and they're trying to
Blah, blah, blah.
blah 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 that kind of stuff, right? So eventually Dracula became the icon. And when I say the icon, the most iconic monster figure, right? However, he's not the first vampire. You know who it is?
Is it Nosferatu or no?
Nosferatu. Count Orlok is considered the first vampire. Now, this is in movie. However, in real life, the first person accused of being a vampire, his name was, and this was very interesting. I'm looking for it.
Frank Dracula Waltz.
Frank.
Frank Balls. He was the-
Walls. Is there something you're not telling us?
So hold on, I'm just searching here in my notes because there's a lot of notes here. His name is Jur Grando Alilovic, right? Or Giuri Grando from 1578 to 1656.
Wow.
Right? And he was a villager from the region of Istria. In modern day, we call it Croatia.
Wow.
Right? He was the first real person described as a vampire in historical record. Right? Doesn't mean that there probably wasn't somebody before him. It just means that for all intents and purposes in recorded history, he is considered the first.
Yes.
And it's funny because I'm seeing your notes and it says that he was a stone mason.
As conspiracy goes, it might be possible, right? But the thing is, so there's another word for a vampire, and we've heard about this in a TV show called The Strain.
Yes, I remember the string.
They're called the Strigoi.
That was the real name.
So he was referred to as Strigon, right?
But the Strigon was referred to like a witch, right? Or something.
It's a warlock like a warlock that feeds on blood.
Like
right?
a blood mage, essentially.
Yeah, like a blood mage, right? But that's what it became.
Yeah.
He became synonymous with and basically
He can turn into birds or something like that, like an owl, right? Something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
so eventually they found him. They accused them of that particular nomenclature.
And you know how it is back then. If you were accused of any sort of witchery or anything like that, it was burned to the stake automatically.
So in vampire lore, That's not how it
It
works.
was a stake to the heart.
It was a stake to the heart. In his case, he was decapitated.
Whoa.
Yeah, so he was decapitated in 1672. So the daughter, the wife, they all fled from Istria, and they moved to Italy in the younger ages. So basically, Strigone means sorcerer, you know, and the long and short. So it's very similar to the witch trials and persecuting somebody for having those kind of abilities, right? So it's very real, right? History has, you know, showed that. And in Romania, they actually have cemeteries where there are people that were accused of being vampires, and you can see when they excavated these bones, stakes were in the heart.
Oh.
Yeah, it's crazy. So it's insane. Now, why do they feed, right?
To add a little bit to what you're saying, I read on somewhere that in that era they will dig the bodies from the grave, and let's say if the person died, let's say like 2 years, 3 years, and the body still look
Fresh.
intact, they will put a stake in the heart, or they'll decapitate it because
Right.
they will think that it was a vampire or whatever.
Yeah. So at this point, right, there is a way to kind of not necessarily kill a vampire, because based on the theory, if you remove the stake and you pour blood into it, it can revive itself.
Yeah.
So it's very odd, right? Now, the word vampire is really associated with demonic lore, right? And these are spirits and demons and entities, for lack of a better word, that feed on the blood of individuals, right? But it's what they're searching for is what? The life essence,
Yeah.
right? And basically they feed on that for that very same reason, because that's how they stay alive.
That's how they look so young,
Yeah.
being thousands of years old, looking like a 22-year-old.
So it's one of the gifts, right? They feed on blood in order to stay immortal, to retain their power. Now, what can a vampire do, right?
Well,
a lot.
with time they're being attributed a lot of powers and special gifts, you know.
Wouldn't one of the I think one of them would be flight, right?
So they can fly.
Transformation.
They can transform into a mist form,
They can be a wolf or a bat.
right? And they have this creature that we spoke about on Distorted Reality season 2, hellhounds.
The hell,
Yeah.
man.
They have
You know who taught me that? Alucard from Symphony of the Night.
right. That's right. So they have the hellhounds, and they can turn into a bat. They also have the power to seduce.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're good seducers.
What a gift, right?
Yeah.
What a gift. I mean, you could be immortal, you could seduce, and you could transform and fly on top of that.
That's just like perfect hunting tools for them right there.
But there's one thing that they cannot do:
Step in the sun.
get a suntan.
No, they can't.
They'll turn real crispy.
We'll get to that later, because you know, as history progressed, the idea of hybridizing the vampire gave birth to Blade,
Blade the vampire,
the Daywalker. There you go. So there's different types of vampires, right? And I'm like going in between history and movies, so you could find the correlation, right? Vampires in modern day. There's an ongoing trend of vampirism in modern day, and they're called energy vampires, right? These are people, and you see them a lot in the South, in Atlanta, New Orleans, where these people, they meet with you, they live that lifestyle, they dress very vampiric or goth type.
Yeah.
And they pretty much feed on your energy. They it's almost like Reiki, but they're absorbing your energy. Or life essence, for lack of a better word, right?
I'm gonna sit next to them and I'm gonna just turn 60 years old. J-Rock, we're ghouls.
Now, they are accounts, for those of you who don't know, there are accounts of cults, real vampire cults that have been put to trial for heinous acts, right? And these acts include, you know, taking blood from innocent people, whether willingly or not. However, that led to greater conversation about disease, right?
Yeah.
You have the at the time in the late 80s, early 90s, you had the AIDS epidemic.
Yeah.
You have blood related diseases that you can contract from
Drinking blood.
I mean, and not to say that vampirism is the end all be all, because you could get a blood transfusion and end up with that has been clinically proven, right? So there are things like that are correlated to this idea that vampirism is very real, folks. And if you're into that kind of stuff and you meet I guess I'm gonna say right people for all intents and purposes, you can get caught up in something similar, right?
Yeah.
There also has been found skulls with very, very protuberant fangs, right?
Yes. So
And it could be real, you know what I mean? They have found skeletons like that,
yeah, so in my mind, sometimes what we speak about, right, has a tendency to be correlated to history, right? And what do I mean by that? There's a sliver of truth in every conversation. Dracula, we just discussed the inspiration behind Dracula,
Real person.
a real person, right? And this goes back to what we're saying, like everything that we hear about, there has to be a sliver of truth in it. And this is the most profound case you can find,
A
right?
lot of people, even people who aren't familiar with like the monsters, the main monsters, like, the werewolf and such, they all at least know that Dracula was once a real person, or from a real person, Vlad the Impaler. So it makes sense for him to be the most synonymous with everyone. Because you can go to a random person, show them a picture of like the Swamp Thing, and they'll be like, what is that? But you show them a picture of a guy with fangs and white skin.
It's a vampire.
Oh my God, Dracula! Rah.
Right. So I remember as a kid, I think every kid, right, at some point dressed up as Dracula.
Yeah. Six Flags. I don't remember the date, but we went to Six Flags, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna wear my Dracula costume. It was perfect. It was Fright Fest, and I miss Fright Fest. But anyway, I remember I had like blood dripping down, like fake blood dripping down on my cheek and such. It was a blast. That was like the best, one of my favorite costumes.
That's insane. Do we have anybody online?
Yes, we got Max Meeks. Hey guys.
Hey,
shout
Max.
out.
How's it
Shout
going,
out to
Max?
Shout out to Max Meeks.
We got it's on early podcast, Mrs. Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Hey Sarah, how's it going?
What up?
Oh, guys. So Sarah is, for those of you who are in the Unearthly podcast, Sarah is doing a Supermom vote.
Yeah.
So make sure you guys, if you go to the Unearthly podcast, vote for the Supermom on Facebook. Vote for her. She's an amazing mom, an amazing person. The women of Unearthly have tons of cool material and content. We did a paranormal
Very lovely individuals.
explorations,
Very lovely
investigation, paranormal investigation.
Yeah, so it was great, and I can't wait to do more with them. So
Yes.
So shout out to Sarah and Colleen.
Sarah says this is the #1 video. Awesome.
Thank you, thank
Thank
you.
you, Sarah.
So make sure you vote. All right, go to the Unearthly podcast, check out the pics, and show support for a great group of individuals.
And Mac Me says that their vampires are also narcissists.
Oh yeah, they have big egos.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Kind of read my mind on that one. I was thinking, yeah, a lot of vampires are kind of narcissists if you think
Also
about it.
said, cannibal humans have existed, and the idea of people that are evil, the spirit in human form, is what vampires are all about.
So let me tell you, who said that?
That was Mr. Max Meeks.
Okay, so let's jump on that discussion real quick. There was a situation when one of the Rockefellers was doing an expedition with the tribe, and he never made it back.
Remember?
And,
Yes.
And basically, they found this footage. And this gave birth to the movie Cannibal Holocaust, by the way. That's where the found film footage.
Yeah.
Right? For those of you who are old enough to know, Cannibal Holocaust and Cannibal Ferox and all these cannibal movies were derived from this one story, right? It basically, they ate them,
Wow.
But why do you eat someone like that, right? There's reasons for it. Some people cannibalize and eat the relatives to keep their spirits close to them.
Could be a type of ritual or something.
But it was also proven that in eating those bodies, there was a tribe that kind of had a mental disorder that would ultimately lead to their deaths many years ago. And there was a doctor that went to these tribes and educated them on why you can't do that. I forgot the name of the tribe, but it was well documented. There is a video on it, and anyone that's interested in this kind of stuff should check it out. And that's another form of vampirism, right? It's more raw, more gritty, right?
Yeah.
Where you go and you eat people, and you're not consuming blood. You're consuming everything.
You're consuming the person.
Right. So, but there's reasons behind it outside of just general cannibalism, right? These people do it with an intent to acquire something, maybe the soul of the person, maybe that person's thinking, that person's life force. There are videos now that's roaming around on TikTok and other social media platforms where you see people cooking a leg and just biting it like if we're having, pernil or fried pork, right?
Wow.
So
There's
there are
a-
things out there.
There's actually a Reddit post out there. It's a very infamous one about a guy who ends up eating his own arm. So he was like, I wonder how this tastes. Because he had to get it amputated. So they're like, yeah, let's go try it. And they actually hired a chef to cook his arm, and it was disgusting. It was such a gritty post to read about.
Wow.
So it's insane, right? So you have something to say, Frank?
No. I wonder where that chef came from.
So
That's scary.
there are practices in
have
some
done that
countries. There are practices in some countries where it is allowed,
Yeah.
right? Not my cup of tea.
I don't know how about feeling my whole
There's
arm-
some
eating my whole
places
arm,
that
but-
they eat monkey brains.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yes, so that is another practice. I remember
Faces
seeing
of
that.
death.
Yes, faces of death. I remember seeing that when I was a kid. A lot of it was fake, but it looks so real, right? I think that particular skit was real.
Wasn't Faces of Death like half real, half fake?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that because they put
Yeah.
the monkey's head inside of a table and they enclosed it while he was still alive, and then they hit him, and you're seeing this in real time.
Yeah.
So I mean, at that time, special effects makeup was great, but I don't think it was,
was
that,
that
far
good.
ahead. You know,
That's
so,
probably real. Yeah.
so we know that these vampires are very potent, very powerful, but they do have a kryptonite, right? Several kryptonites.
Yeah.
So what can we find out about vampires and their weaknesses? So we know garlic is one
Yeah,
of them,
the
which
wooden-
I never figured out why. Right?
Maybe it's
so
the smell, the taste.
No.
I know what it is. Because they're kind of narcissist. So if they're gonna get the blood from a young female, they don't want to have their breath.
They don't want-
They're gonna,
Yeah, go ahead. Try to seduce somebody with this.
yeah, exactly. That's a turn off. That's what it is. I think that's what it is.
So these are I'm doing a quick search, right? And in the search, the strong odor, purported antimicrobial properties led to the association with the protection against these evil creatures.
Yeah,
right?
put a thing of garlics around your neck. Boom, you're not getting bit.
And they're saying that it's linked to blood disorders like porphyria, which can cause pale skin, and other symptoms may have been associated with garlic and vampires.
You learn something new every day.
So there you
Yeah.
go. That's there are some. Yeah, that's pretty much it. All right. So and why steak? Steak through the heart. Why is that?
Considering the background with
Because,
Vlad the Impaler.
That's the yeah.
Isn't the heart's like a weak point in everybody?
Yeah.
It don't matter who you are. If your heart is gone, all blood flow through your body is.
Even the Viltrumites.
Yeah.
So here it is. They're afraid of it because typically whenever we're putting something on the ground, you stake a piece of wood to the ground, leaving somebody trapped, and that's where the stake in the heart comes from.
And if they're trapped on the floor, all you gotta do is wait till morning.
Right.
The sun bakes them.
Right. So
What about holy water? Did the holy water affect them or not?
You know who taught me about holy water? Simon Belmont. Oh yeah,
there you have it. The Belmont clan.
them walking around with their crosses.
Did they get affected by holy water or not?
So
Yeah.
yes, they are affected, but this has to do with divine power, right? everybody knows that Dracula or Vlad did an evil deed, right? And by performing an evil deed, this resulted in it being associated with demonic, evil, malevolent presence. And what fights the malevolent? The divine.
Exactly.
And the articles of I guess calming or banishing evil
Cleansing.
or cleansing evil is holy water.
Yeah.
So that's another reason. And then what about the cross? You know how
Yes,
they say
another
cross.
holy protection. I think that's sort of similar to the
but
holy water.
it has to be silver, right? Or no? Silver?
No. So
I think a cross in general. As long as it's some sort of
because
holy.
They used to grab the stakes.
Yeah, and
do
just, like, do a cross, yeah.
And then
Yeah.
so there are reasons for it. So the first one is religious symbolism, right? But you must have faith.
You
Without
believe.
faith.
So you could have a cross, but without faith in believing in the cross, because this has to do with Christianity, by the way.
Yeah.
During that time when Dracula fought, or Vlad,
It says that if you have a faith as a grain of mustard, you can move a mountain.
that's right,
So
mustard seed.
mustard seed. There you go.
So
Preach, Frank Walls, preach.
it's religious symbolism for Christianity, and of course we know that during the time of Vlad, this was a holy war.
Yeah,
All
there
right,
was a bunch of
It was
religious
the
wars and
Turkish
such.
Empire. That was the Ottoman Empire. Was the Turkish Empire.
Yeah. So then it's the psychological impact, right? Most, if not all, vampires in this case, they were human, so they understand the effects of divine intervention.
they know the study of said religion.
This guy's had drumstick at KFC.
So here's a little video game lore, right? So the game that presents Dracula the best is a game called Castlevania.
Oh yeah.
Or in Japan known as Akujimu Dracula, right? I'm a big fan. It's one of my favorite all-time games. More specifically,
I can confirm.
Symphony of the Night. But there is a scientific explanation, and in Castlevania they say that it's a geometric pattern that creates confusion, right? And there's it starts creating panic because they lose their sense of direction. And it makes sense because the cross has 4 points: north, south, east, and west.
But when you throw it, it spins around.
And
So, yeah.
and in Castlevania, that place exists, right? Transylvania.
So Transylvania in Castlevania does exist in the game. That's
No, but in real life, it's Transylvania.
I'm looking it up. Transylvania is a real historical and geographical
Yeah.
region located in central Romania.
yeah. So
Known for its devial towns, mountains, borders, and castles like Bran Castle, which is associated with the legend of Dracula.
So, by the way, there is a castle that's called Dracula's Castle, and people go there and they do paranormal investigations.
That was Vlad Castle, right?
Yeah, that was Vlad's castle. And
You're
of course,
about to get stuff in there.
and to go back into the cross, right? There are mythological roots that deal with the power of Christ.
It compels you.
Right. So there's an assortment of things that the power of sunlight, for example, can
Yes.
kill a vampire. Why is that?
That's a good question. I actually never thought about that.
I got something from Kid Dan over here. Shout out to
Hey,
Kid
Kid Dan.
Hey Dan, what's going on?
It says, you guys remember Blade Trinity in that movie Dracula could be out in the sun because he was the first one. He was a special and a very every other vampire created by Bite were weak.
That reminds me of
Dan,
Edward
weak breed.
Colored.
Hey Dan, I think you got it wrong. He went to the bathroom and put sunscreen.
Listen, I think Edward Cullen took some notes. You know, he went into the sun and started sparkling. I don't know how I feel about that.
Did you guys think their weakness because the weakness came because of something like that? Weaker breeds could be.
That
Could
can be. Maybe. Maybe there's a
Because
vampire
even-
out there still that's able to roam the world.
Even in the movie Underworld, they were like the pure bloods.
Yeah.
The other ones. And
But that idea of being pure blooded and being all that stuff, that goes way beyond vampirism.
That's
right?
just
That's like a general term
Yeah.
for hierarchy.
like deities, like gods. Like
Not even that.
or
Even in today's
mon-
society.
Yeah.
Even in today's society, think about it. You have the aristocrats.
Yeah.
You have the wealthy, those in power. That kind of it's a symbolic way of making distinctions between pure-blooded vampires and ones that are considered sired.
It's like the color purple was considered royalty because it was so difficult to make. So it
Now
was
look at it.
expensive. So the majority of the hierarchies, kings, whatever, they used to wear the purple and blue.
Yeah.
Right. So
Purple, blue, and gold.
there is a weakness to the vampire for the sun. Here's why. The sun is associated with the sun god, but there's also
Wukong?
no, not Sun Wukong, but rather the sun god or the son of man, right? So sometimes it's a play on words,
Yeah.
right? And the sun does what? The sun brings about what? A new day, the light, the divine.
Purify.
It purifies you.
Yeah.
Why do they tell you to stand in front of the sun?
Why do they tell you to stand in front of the sun?
There's a vitamin called vitamin D,
okay.
Yeah.
that provides energy to your body.
They even purify water with the ultraviolet rays.
Right.
Yeah.
So that tells you that there's something there that is correlated to this, and the vampire cannot be in front of that presence.
Plus, also all the bad things happen at night. Like all
Yeah.
the creatures came at night to feed all the insects,
Right.
snakes, everything. You know what I mean?
So vampires can feed on anything that can produce blood. And that's going to your point.
Pigs, rats. There's a
Right.
couple of movies where that's shown. I can't believe I'm mentioning this, but there's a movie called My Babysitter's a Vampire,
Right.
which is a movie on Disney.
No, in Disney.
There's
yeah.
a Disney movie and a series called My Babysitter's a Vampire, and one of the scenes shows this babysitter who is a vampire saying, "I don't feed on humans. I only feed on rats. They're like birds."
That happened also in an interview with a vampire.
Right,
One
right.
of them,
Brad Pitt.
he was. He
Yeah.
didn't want to eat humans. Or
Lestat.
He started eating rats.
Was it
and
Lestat?
stuff.
That was his name, Lestat?
Something.
I could look
like
it up.
that,
I think it was Lestat.
Interview with a vampire, right?
So let's talk about like vampire types, right? 'Cause there's a variety of different vampire types, right? Let's go into vampire types real quick on my computer, and we'll go over them.
That's El Vampiro de Moca. He's one of the vampires. That's the Puerto Rican vampire, El Vampiro de Moca. That's a
So let's start off with your classic vampire, right? It's called literally a classic vampire. It's a blood-drinking undead creature, often depicted as humanoid with supernatural abilities and the abilities to feed on blood. And then you have Nosferatu,
Yeah.
right, which is the first vampire on movie. A type of vampire often associated with the classic vampire archetype, known for their appearance and association with the undead. So these even though they're human in appearance, they have more undead features like little to no hair, really
Very
sharp, pointed,
pale skin.
right? Very sharp, pointy teeth, long, gnarled fingers.
Yeah, the teeth or
The fangs are actually to the front.
yeah, they're like
Then you have a dampier.
And please be advised that vampires don't wear braces, right?
No, they can't.
They can't.
that'll break down the wire.
They don't have dental insurance.
Then you have a dampier, which is a hybrid between a vampire and a human, having traits of both species that can vary. For example, a human vampire that can walk in the sun, that's a dampier. That's a day walker,
So
right?
the blade is a dampier.
Right. And then, of course, you have the ancient vampires. These are like the origin ones, the ones that started it all.
Oh, he said the origin word. He said it.
There you
Guys, that's it. We're done with distorted realities. Come on, guys. Clap it up for J-Rock.
There you go. So then we have the Liyak. So this is from Balinese folklore. It's a female figure seeking revenge and terrorizing villages, which is a vampire-like, right?
What about the higher vampire? Is it the higher vampire?
And that's the ancient vampire.
Ancient?
Yeah. So that goes under ancient vampire. Oh, I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. Go ahead. Why don't you take over that
That
one?
one says the higher vampire, a rare and powerful type of vampire, often depicted as a resembling humans and able to evade detection by witchers and medallions.
The artifacts. He uses artifacts.
So these use artifacts.
More like a warlock vampire, right?
Yeah, something like that.
You know who else is like that? Alucard.
There you go.
There you go.
Dracula's son. So, by the way, Alucard is, if you take the word Dracula and you put it in a mirror, you get Alucard in reverse. That's how the name came to be.
Wow.
So that's Dracula's son is Alucard, which is just Dracula in reverse. Then you have Vitala, right? A vampire that rebelled against drinking blood of lesser beings and evolved into this type. So this is a vampire that would drink blood of higher beings. I don't know what that means, because if you're a vampire, what's higher than you?
Yeah, exactly. You
Right.
pretty much get
maybe a
into
werewolf, maybe
maybe,
I don't
or
know,
maybe they can mean higher
something on
beings.
his level, maybe. You know?
Remember, some vampires eat, or like animals. So it
So-
would make sense if they were going after maybe higher figures, higher
A
authorities.
unicorn, maybe they're eating
Yeah,
unicorns.
exactly. Poor unicorn.
So there is a hybrid. Now that you mentioned that, so there is a vampire. Is often called a hybrid. Is a functional creature. Some stories. So there are hybrids between werewolf and vampires. The movie Underworld kind of talks about that. And basically, there has to be a bloodline followed in order for that to happen, and it happens once every certain amount of years, hundreds of years, of course, in the lineage. And they have both weaknesses to sunlight and silver.
All right.
And that's pretty much it for vampires types, right?
Yeah.
I don't.
What if the chupacabra is a vampire that didn't want to eat human blood?
So you know what? We're
And
gonna add a new
he's-
category.
He's eating
The
animals.
chupi-chupi.
Animals.
We're gonna call it the alien vampire.
The alien vampire.
There you go.
There you go.
Not the one from Mexico, the little coyote
That's the
one.
Puerto Rican one.
I actually
The
do
alien
have a
vampire.
question, because there's a lot of vampires that are depicted as, like in media, depicted as being more monstrous than human. Like, let's take the man bat
Yeah,
from
from Batman, right?
Oh,
Let's turn that off for a second. That call is a random call.
Scam.
Yeah, scam callers.
but a lot like Man Bat in the Batman series, he is depicted more as a monster than a human, and it's just I like those types of monsters.
So I'll give you another classification now that we're into this. The Ball
The Balbo. There
was
you go.
a vampire
Mm-hmm.
type creature, right? It feeds on humans, but it was more creature than
human, yeah.
right? So
Even in the movie Bram Stoker's Dracula, he take that form like a man bat.
right.
Yeah, like when I think about it, because I see a lot of people glamorize vampires. I like the grittier ones. I like the vampires that look like monsters that won't seduce you or anything. They will chase you.
Like Jeeper Creepers.
Exactly.
But
He's
the-
kind of like something.
Nah,
weird.
the creeper's something completely unique
Yeah,
and different.
right.
However, he does have vampire-like features, right?
Yeah, like
So-
wings, the wings and all that.
So there is a commonality there, but with him, he feeds on fear and takes what creates the fear, right? For example, the creeper in the Jeepers Creeper Part 1, the guy who was played by what's his name? My God, he was super popular. Like all the girls went crazy for
The
him.
one he had like a rose tattoo.
Yeah, so that guy, he took his eyes because when he saw him, that's what triggered the fear,
Here.
right?
Like see no evil, hear no
Yeah.
evil, speak no evil, and such.
Right.
And he
right,
will lose an arm. He will eat an arm to get an arm, right?
right.
Am I right? Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so he would gain it, but it was like he feeds every certain amount of years. He doesn't just feed randomly, right? That was the gimmick behind the creeper.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, I'm going to use the word trope because that sounds better. Right? That was the trope behind the creeper. Like he needed to feed to restore and replenish his body, and then every certain amount of years he would come back and start.
There was no way to kill him, right?
You had to trap him. So when you watch part 2, he's trapped. They have him
Like
stabbed
that, right?
against the
Like
wall.
that.
Yeah. So that was kind of like the gimmick behind it.
By the
So
way, this is the Man Bat, because I don't know if you've ever seen him.
Wow.
oh, he looks good.
He is actually an Easter egg. So you'll be flying around Gotham, and next thing you know, he'll jump scare you.
Oh, wow.
So
Which game is that one?
Arkham Knight.
Okay.
so let's talk about vampires and the effect it's had on society, right? We all know that Dracula was the first to start it off with Bela Lugosi. And this started leading to different storytelling, different narratives. Let's start with the funny ones,
Mm-hmm.
right? Jim Carrey, Once Bitten.
You
I
put
haven't
Jim.
seen that one. It's a movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Great, phenomenal.
Then you have My Best Friend is a Vampire, and these goes way back to the 80s. Great movies, great storytelling where, you know, they're virgin males and the vampire bites them because there's nothing better than the blood of a virgin.
Yeah.
Right? That lore came from movies. I never seen it in
Like actual,
in actual historical text or anything like that. But there's something about it. It's the idea
Pure.
of taking over the purity of someone else.
But I think one of the most scariest movies in the vampire lore, I think, is Twilight. So
Oh yeah, I saw
scary,
Edward Cullen
you know?
shining and I was scared.
So Frankie, don't lie. You know that when you stand outside
he glimmers.
shirtless, you start glittering up and glowing.
Guys, remember, Frank has a 6-pack and he glows.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So then we also have that's kind of like the slapstick comedy trope that's for vampires. Innocent guy or girl gets sworn in. And then this kind of like started leaning into some comedy, but some seriousness. Fright Night.
Yeah,
They're
Friday
coming
night.
for you, Brewster. Remember that? Like, his name was Freak in the movie, right? I think the name of the character that played Freak, his name is Stephen Jeffries, right? Great movie. It brought about
A phenomenal watch. Everyone should watch it.
so yeah, and I'm talking about the 1980s version of Fright Night 1 and 2, both equally good. Part 1 really captured the essence of the period, right? Everybody was in college partying, right? And then you had this couple that were together, and you know, he wanted to have sex, but he got distracted because a new neighbor, Mr. Jerry Dandridge, right? Moved in, and he found out he was a vampire. He noticed that she was a virgin and he wanted her blood and started chasing her, only to realize that, you know, yeah,
No, yeah, continue. Yeah.
wanted to take her body, basically.
I just want to add a Vampire in Brooklyn. That was a great movie too.
That was another comedy, right? But it had some really good material. Actually, that was a very good movie.
It was good, yeah.
It was a very good movie with
I
Eddie
enjoyed
Murphy.
it. He has like a ring, right? There's something with the ring.
Yeah. So there are artifacts, right, that exist that are used to help aid the vampires in their
escapades.
You know which one I saw and I really like. This one was recent with oh my god, Nicolas Cage, the new one.
Nosferatu. There's a new one.
No,
called Nosferatu.
it's more like a comic.
Oh,
too.
more comedy.
Yeah.
Okay. Who was it with?
It's recent. It's not that old.
With who?
Oh, Nicolas Cage and
Oh.
I forget the other guy. He's like a young guy. But it's a good movie. It's a good movie. Yeah, I enjoyed it. You know, like they don't do a movie like that.
Oh, Renfield.
Yeah, that one.
Brentfield, okay.
Yeah, that one. It's really good. You have to
Okay.
see it.
He
And
looks
then-
insane.
So my personal favorite, right? And for those of you who know this, you're gonna hear it for the first time. For the first time in a long time, you're probably gonna hear it. But it's
You drank someone's blood? Are you crazy?
if you know that one, then you know that it's the Lost Boys.
You'll never grow old, Michael, and you'll never die. But you must feed.
You must
They're only
feed.
noodles, Michael. They're
I
only
think
noodles.
out of all the vampire movies in the 1980s, that was I call it the quintessence. It captured the coolness, the idea that there was a head vampire running these young guys, and these kids were just being kids, right? And the transformations were good, the storytelling was good, and of course, there's that famous line, "They're only noodles, Michael," right? And of course, that started creating more and more amazing vampire movies. Of course, you have Underworld.
Oh yeah.
I actually do need to see Underworld.
Oh, it's great.
You never saw
I've
it?
never
Wow,
seen
shame on
You
you.
have to see them all.
Yeah, because this is my first time hearing about
Yeah,
it.
the last one I didn't like about the last one that they killed the guy, the guy that
The
became
Lycan, the hybrid.
the hybrid guy. Yeah.
So that
I didn't like
guy is
that
played
part.
by Scott Speedman.
Yeah, I didn't like that part.
Yeah, I didn't like it either because you figured you like the ultimate hybrid.
And he He was supposed to be the
But he got his ass kicked in every single movie. I don't know if you noticed that. Like he had a couple of punches, but then he lost.
I think he was too skinny. That's why he wore masks.
So yeah, you had that. We can't knock Twilight for what it is, right? It is a great story. I just think that it was too romanticized.
Yeah.
There is a way to make it romantic without being,
Too romantic.
and I think it was more of a modern take on Romeo and Juliet type thing.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you know, you ended up having glittering vampire males and a bunch of wolves.
I got here in the chat, Mr. Kate Dan. It says, on Jeeper Creeper Part 3, they find his original hand, and that gave one of the character a vision of what he really is, how he got created, and how to kill him. And we got Monster Culture. Shout out to Monster Cultures.
Hey,
Sup,
Monster
guy?
Culture, what's going
up?
on?
Yeah. And we got Mr. McMeans. This Nosferatu looks like Malik from The Watchmen.
Oh,
Yeah.
Here you go. Yeah.
So the movies are really, you have to be mindful when you watch these movies. Some of them try to capture a specific thing, right?
like Blade.
So Blade, let's talk about Blade.
I love
right?
Blade.
Blade was an amazing movie because it made known what it was, right?
It was an action.
It was a dark hero, right? Where he embodied all the abilities of a vampire, but all the human qualities, right? He could walk on the day and pretty much do normal human stuff, but
I want to mention that I think Blade didn't they didn't make the honor that he deserved. You know what I mean? He was, when you think about it, he was the first Marvel trilogy. You
I
know
think
what
we
mean?
need
Right?
more Blade content.
Yeah.
so
'Cause
the problem
Blade
is,
just- I think Blade.
I
I,
think,
feel
yeah,
like
for
Blade is
me-
underappreciated.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. He was so good.
Let's talk. Now we're gonna talk truth. Actors, when they get on a hit, they'll ride that train, but even they know that they don't want to be typecasted.
Yeah.
Wesley Snipes, for all intents and purposes, was in a phenomenal action star,
Yeah.
not just a superhero, right?
Yeah.
You could fall into that trap quickly. But more importantly, when you watch some of his other movies, they weren't necessarily action based, like when he did White Man Can't Jump.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Money Train.
That was a good movie.
So,
yeah.
You could fall into that trap quick.
Demolition Man. That was a great
Demolition
movie.
Man.
Actually,
yeah.
I'm actually gonna say this now because I should have mentioned it sooner. It's actually the year of Blade. You know why? Because we're getting a Blade game.
Yeah.
We're getting Blade and Marvel. Blade is coming back. He's making a comeback slowly but surely.
I just want to make a big criticism here. I don't think Marshall Ali.
Marshall Ali.
I think he shouldn't be the guy, because I think one of the things that make the Blades movie so good is one thing. This guy, the actor that played Blade, he was a martial artist. You know what I mean? That's why the fight scenes were so good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you're gonna put somebody that doesn't know nothing about nothing, and is gonna use a double all the time, you know what I mean?
Right,
It's
right.
not gonna be. They should get somebody like the guy that play. I know he's a little bit old, but he's still in shape and look good. What was the movie? Spawn.
Michael J.
Oh,
White.
Michael J. White, yeah.
He could pull off that.
I think Michael J. White could be a good
he
Blade.
could be a good Blade. Yeah, I know.
But he could be a phenomenal Blade. But you guys forgot something. He's Spawn.
That is
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
He is fine.
And I would never trade him
Yeah,
That
to
is a
be
good-
Blade.
that is a good
He's the
pick.
best Spawn I've ever. Like,
Live action Spawn?
Yeah.
Voice wise, you can't go wrong with like the main voice. I forgot his name. Oh my god. Who the voice actor for Spawn?
yeah. The other actor, I know who.
The VA for Spawn,
He
hold on.
actually make the voice on Call of Duty.
Yeah.
on the skin.
yeah. So you have a whole bunch of movies that really
Keith David.
Keith David.
That's
So-
Keith David.
Shout out to Keith David. Yeah.
Vampires. What other vampire movies we can?
Let's go see because
You said Interview with a Vampire.
Hotel Transylvania.
Hey, let's go there.
blah blah blah.
Blah blah blah.
I do not go blah 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 blah. No,
You guys forgot about the Count from Sesame Street.
Oh yeah.
One biggie pudding.
Shout out to Big Bird.
So you had a couple of like cool things that came out of this vampire.
Yeah, like they managed to make vampire or like Dracula like a very fun individual with these new weird children stuff.
I mean, so much so that when you go buy cereal, you can have Count Chocula.
yeah, exactly. Count Chocula's,
Right. So
which I still haven't tried, and it looks interesting. But
so you have a whole assortment, a plethora of things that deal with vampirism that kind of is now ingrained into the culture. Horror is losing its touch, but it's gonna start making a resurgence.
yeah,
again.
the most recent movie, Nosferatu, I heard
Yeah.
people loved that
It was
movie.
great.
It was
I
a
haven't
great
seen
thing.
it. You guys saw it?
No, I haven't seen it. I do. wish-
Return of Salem's Lot,
Yeah.
the new Salem's Lot, that was great.
So they're slowly making a comeback, which
I
is
heard
great.
they're gonna make another Conjuring movie, another one.
That's Ghost.
Let's go.
That's
Oh
not-
no,
that's not vampire.
yeah, I know, but it's horror, you know.
I'm sorry. You're absolutely right because we're talking about the resurgence of horror.
Yeah,
right?
coming back. You know,
Right.
I don't know how I feel about another Conjuring movie. I'm gonna say it right here, right now.
So I will tell you this:
they're good.
they weren't bad.
Yeah,
they weren't bad. They were good. The one that always throws me off is Insidious.
Oh, Insidious 75.
Yeah, like
Future Ghost Warfare.
That goes really far out, right? So I'm gonna turn it out to you guys. Top 3 horror films related to vampire.
Oh wow. But I guess Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Okay.
And I was watching one that I saw here. Is because I saw that movie, but I think it's Dracula the Untold. I think that in that story kind of depict a little bit different. It's like, if I'm not mistaken, Judas.
Right.
Yeah.
He is the first vampire.
Right.
When he tried to take his life, he turns into a vampire. So I think that movie is, if I'm not mistaken, that's how the story goes. And I find that kind of, cool in a way, And what will be the other one? Where is it? From Dusk Till Dawn.
Ooh,
That one.
that was good.
Yeah, good movie. Yeah.
And George Clooney.
George
and,
Clooney.
And Quentin Tarantino was
Yeah.
awesome in that shit.
Did he direct that movie?
I believe so.
He worked on it and directed it.
Yeah, he did.
I bet you he had a blast. Like, I'm gonna be in this movie. I'm gonna direct it.
I like the whole idea that he was like kind of off, like he was kind of crazy,
Right?
right? Those are great picks.
Yeah, those
They
are some
don't
pretty solid
make
picks.
good movies anymore, man.
It's
They start
hard.
making good movies.
It's hard, right?
And another thing that I don't like if you go back to these movies, there was no CGI.
They didn't shy away from
So there was not CGI. So and like from Dusk Till Dawn, there's not that much CGI there. But you see the gore, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And now with all these new movies, it's good to use CGI, but I think you need to know when to use it.
Yeah.
No, you cannot
Right.
put it everywhere.
Learn
you
how
know
to do
what I mean?
practical effects. Like
Even-
that's why I
even-
love Terrifier. Because
Exactly.
Terrifier, there's no
It's
CGI.
very, very practical.
Yeah.
They're all practical effects, which is amazing, especially considering their budget. Like, especially the first one.
The monsters, like a lot of movies that have monsters or
CGI.
creatures, they do a CGI and it looks so fake, man. For more to try to do it, sometimes if you do, I don't know, maybe it's hard to create it like a puppet or but I
now
know,
let's-
but it's like the old movie, like
Take
Gremlins,
a moment,
like
take
the
a
old
moment to think about
Gremlins, you know?
Fantastic Four.
Yeah,
They're making the new Fantastic Fours. CGI the CGI is going to be on the thing, but the original was a full bodysuit,
yeah.
which is awesome.
And
I
it
loved
looks
it.
and it looks
It
kind of
looked-
real.
It
you
looked
know what I
fun.
mean?
It was a fun movie.
Like the Ninja Turtles, the first
Oh my
Ninja
God.
Turtles, they looked real. The first ones, you know.
Yeah,
Then
one-
they did this thing with CGI, and it's like you lost the touch.
You lost the
I
magic.
don't know. I don't get it. I
Right.
don't get it.
So Dante, Mr. Valentine, it's your turn.
Lost Boys, Fright Night, Blade. I'm those are like the few that I can watch over and over again. Lost Boys because J Rock put me onto it and it was amazing. It was such a lovely watch. Fright Night because it was my first ever vampire movie. Like I'd never seen vampire movies, and then now he was like, "Hey, let's watch this," and I said, "Yeah, sure, let's watch it," and I loved it. And then Blade because Blade was just so badass. Like, and he is one of my favorite Marvel characters. And it feels good to see him like make a resurgence slowly but surely. But yeah, those 3 movies were just really good for me.
Very good choices.
And that's why I always wear sunglasses. In honor of Blade, I always wear sunglasses.
I wear my sunglasses at night so I can.
So, for me, Vamp with Grace Jones.
Vamp?
Yeah, look up Vamp with Grace Jones. That was one of the most very artistic, colorful. And when she turned into a vampire, she was freaky.
Vamp.
I'm not gonna say Lost Boys because everybody knows the Lost Boys. It's a cult classic that sits on God tier status. Right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Salem's Lot. Fantastic storytelling. A town is getting plagued with vampires.
I remember this one. Okay.
Yeah, it was great.
It was great. That was phenomenal.
Salem's Lot captured the dangers. I'll tell you what. There was a scene, right, where the kid is in his room and his friend became a vampire, and his room is on the second floor, and you see that he had the double door windows that open up, and the kid is floating in the air with mist in the background. He's like, "Let me in," right? Which is something we didn't talk about. Why is it that vampires have to be let in? They have to be invited.
Because they're very educated aristocrats, you know? So they're just not gonna,
Let's look that up, actually. Wait.
they're just not gonna get into your house just like that.
Mr.
like
Valentine, look it up.
breaking
Okay.
in. you know
Why
what I mean?
vamps need to be. Okay.
Have to call the evil in order to come in. You have to open a door. They always say that you have to open a door.
Okay. Let's
Don't
go
open
ahead.
doors. Don't open doors.
So
Okay.
go ahead.
In vampire folklore, the need for an invitation stems from the belief that a home is a protected space, a sacred haven, and a place where evil cannot enter without permission.
So for those of you who have a house, remove your welcome mats because that's instant invitation.
Yes.
Right? I learned that from the Women of Unearthly. So remove your welcome mats.
Thank you, women of unearthly.
So my third movie is called Near Dark.
Near dark.
Yeah, it's a classic movie. A family of vampires. They're just it's about them trying to survive, basically. And there's a human that falls in love with a girl. She turns him into a vampire, and a whole bunch of stuff. It's really cool because it kind of took away this whole gruesomeness. Like they did it to survive, right? Because now they were the minority and humans were the majority, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't showcase any real superpowers or anything like that. But it was a great movie. Bill Paxton was in it. Rest in peace.
I saw somewhere, that, you know, like some doors, the way they have like a cross. Like if you look at your door right now, it looks like an Egyptian cross.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I heard that houses that have doors with that pattern that looks like a cross, they're protected.
They're
you know
protected.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe that has to do with that a little bit. You know what I mean? Because they're the evil thing. So if a door has that pattern, they cannot just go in. You have to invite
Right.
them.
So let's talk about TV shows now.
Have you noticed that your door looks like the Egyptian cross?
Yes, I noticed. TV shows.
Yeah.
Vampire related TV shows.
Buffy the Vampire.
Oh yeah, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That's a good
Classic.
one.
Angel.
Angel was okay.
I gotta bring it back. My Babysitter's a Vampire. That was like one of my favorites growing up. The Strain. That was an amazing one.
The Strain was an excellent.
That was a beautiful representation of vampires. In my
Blade,
opinion.
the TV
Blade,
show.
the TV show. Yeah.
And it was played by one of the members of a rap group called Onyx. He became an actor and he did really well.
Yeah.
I forgot his name. Let's see. Blade TV show. And the actor Sticky Fingers, that's his name. He was from a group called Onyx.
Oh,
And he
man.
did pretty well.
I just like got a flashback looking at most of these, but Vampire Diaries, True Blood.
That was good. True Blood was amazing.
I heard
True Blood was really good.
Yeah.
That was my man Bill Compton. He'll be like, "Suck it, I need to feed, suck it."
Hemlock Grove.
Hemlock Grove was great.
I heard it was good. I
That
haven't
was
watched
excellent.
it. Let's go see. What's this?
So I will tell you this: if you would have turned Vampire Diaries into a movie, it would have probably outsold Twilight.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Vampire Diaries is amazing.
Oh yeah. But I don't know what's going on with Twilight, man. I don't get it. What?
Van Helsing.
So we got to talk about that because there was a period in time, right, where a group called Hammer Horror. These are a collection of movies by a company called Hammer, and there was a guy named Christopher. I'm going to tell you his name, and you've seen him before. This is European movies, but basically Hammer Productions, and basically the actors that were in it was Christopher Lee, and he always played Dracula, right? And they're the only ones that did a movie where martial arts and Dracula fought. It was called Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires. Yeah, yo, it was great. And it was like the Shaw Brothers stuff. Oh, you killed my father. That kind of stuff. And Legend of the
That's my master.
Yeah, so Hammer Horror actors. So there was one though that was always known for playing an important role. Peter Cushing.
Peter Cushing.
Yes, he always played Van Helsing for the majority of the thing. So the way they did this was that for the story of Dracula, it's like Castlevania, right? We know that the Belmont clan is the only clan that can defeat Dracula.
Yeah.
The Helsings knew all the secrets to Dracula and can kill Dracula, or at least put him to rest, right? For a long extended period of time. In the movie Helsing with Hugh Jackman, he was a werewolf. He was a descendant of the werewolf. And the kryptonite, another kryptonite to Dracula was what? The wolf bite.
Wolf, yeah.
But Peter Cushing.
Now that you mentioned Van Helsing, I get it. I just love some of the designs that they use for him, because he always has that really cool looking hat, glasses, and a trench coat. And that reminds me of Resident Evil 8, because a lot of the characters take inspiration. One of the main villains, Heisenberg, looks exactly like Van Helsing,
Right.
but with a hammer. And then you have Lady Dimitrescu with Lady D. She's a tall vampire, and her 3 daughters, they're all vampires. So vampire media isn't necessarily like in a decline. I think we're just at like a stoop where it's like we just need more of it.
Right. So best person who played Dracula.
Oh, that guy that you had on screen earlier. Oh, go back.
Christopher Lee.
That one, yeah. I think that one. He's very iconic too.
He's very iconic.
Let me see his face, because I think I might know who he is.
He played Count Dooku. He was in Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, never mind. Yeah, him.
Doku, yeah.
I mean, this guy was actually MI6.
Yeah, he was from the
He's
British. He used to drink tea.
Yeah. So, but he was very, very, very intelligent, very scholarly, very declarated.
Yeah, then I'm gonna have to say him. I mean, because I see his face and I'm like, yeah, I know that guy.
See, I said best Dracula, right? Jack Palance played Dracula. For those of you who don't know Jack Palance, watch City Slickers. He's curly. He's the tough guy. He had a show called Ripley's Believe It or Not in the 70s and 80s that was amazing, right? My favorite Dracula was none of them. It was actually the guy, and you're not gonna believe this. His name is Thomas Rasula.
Blackula.
Blackula. Blackula was tough as shit, bro. And let me tell
he
you
was
something.
first the blade first.
He was the first Black
So
Dracula.
believe it or not, he was the coolest Dracula I seen, and here's why. Because when you watch the movie, he was fucking beating your ass. Pardon my language, guys. He was fucking you up. He wasn't gonna just take your blood.
He
So-
was actually like whooping.
He was
Yeah,
a mix
A-Rock had
between.
to say it like that.
So he wasn't just a smooth talker, or
He was a fighter.
He got down, like, and in the movies he like resembled the gritty aspects of it in a period where blaxploitation films were not highly considered. I like that about his version of Dracula, and the only person that did it just as aggressive, believe it or not, was Jack Palance in one of his.
This guy right here.
Yeah, that's Jack Palance.
So I heard the guy was a mix between Dracula and Action Jackson.
Yeah, you could say that.
There you go.
You could say that, but a lot of people don't give that movie enough credit. Dracula was, if you are into vampire films, you need to watch it. It was actually good for its time, and it stands out because they made him look like scary. They didn't beautify anything about it, right? Yeah, there's some aspects of it that fit with the time and with the culture. But when you just strip everything else and just put him as Dracula, you go, oh shit, like,
That's scary. That's
yeah,
terrifying.
he's aggressive, like he's real. So we got best Dracula. You like which one? Christopher Lee,
Yeah.
and you agreed with him.
Yeah, I
Christopher
agreed with
Lee.
yeah, 'cause I
So
think I
second
just-
best one, I'm gonna give it to Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman.
He played Dracula in the Keanu Reeves one.
Gary Oldman.
Oh, in Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did a great.
Gary
yeah.
Oldman, he did good. Anybody
Yeah.
said any comments?
That's Mr. What was it in Dark Knight trilogy? He was Commissioner Gordon.
Right.
This is Commissioner Gordon. Oh my God.
Very, very amazing actor.
Yeah, he played in the new movies. Yeah, that will be my favorite. But in the old ones, so
All right, so let's jump on to the next one. Best vampire.
I'm
Alucard.
gonna go with Gary Oldman.
Best,
Well, he's a Dracula.
best
Oh,
vampire.
okay.
Vampire.
Alucard from Helsing.
Oh wow.
Very good.
Alucard from Hell. I think Alucard.
Helsing the animated series.
Yes, Helsing
Very
the
cool.
animated series, and that's because he just embodied everything that was so like cool about being a vampire. Like if I wanted to be a vampire, I would be him. He had two really cool looking guns. He was just super cold with it. Like if he knew you did something bad, he would make sure you feel it in every ounce of pounding that he's put on you. It's insane.
I got in the chat Kirby's 100. What up, Kirby's? He said, hello, I think vampire have really bad breath.
Agreed.
But, well, I mean, there are undead, so
Listen, that could depend. Some vampires can be clean. I think Alucard, but the Alucards are mainly clean individuals.
yeah, but they're still undead.
That is true.
Yeah.
Wait, isn't Alucard a hybrid?
Alucard is a hybrid, but
Yeah.
he's still undead.
Okay.
I think the underworld lady.
Pete Beckinsale.
Oh my God. Where are
You see, you're not thinking about vampires anymore. You want her to bite your neck, huh?
Bite me, Kate.
Frank, stop being so freaky.
For me, it's gonna be Keith Sutherland in Lost Boys.
Fair enough. Fair pick. Fair pick.
You know, he just captured the whole mantra. He nailed it. You know, it's one of those things I could never get. Even the part where they're running out of the cave that they killed the first vampire, that he's coming out and you can see the tear. He captured that, the imagery and the visceralness of being a vampire. So that I think we kind of covered everything about vampires outside of why they sleep in coffins.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Maybe because they're half alive, half dead, or maybe
That can't be a
that way
good
they don't
representation.
get the sun.
Yeah, because I mean, all right, J Rock, let's put it in the supercomputer.
Yeah, they use it for protection from sunlight.
Okay.
It's a symbolic of their undead nature. Travel and security, so when they get transported, they're secured. And it's just another trope. It's a common trope in pop culture.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so it's pretty good.
Don't forget to save your games, vampires.
Yeah.
Only J Rock would get that reference.
Right? so now that we're done with the movies, games,
Oh,
vampire games.
V Rising.
I'll
Could
say
be Rising.
Castlevania.
Castlevania.
That's an icon.
Castlevania is super iconic. I think without Castlevania, we wouldn't have a lot of things, a lot of
Yeah.
media.
You know, one fact about Kate Beckinsale, she had a part-time baking and selling, baking sales,
Wow.
baking and selling.
You really like Kate
You
Beckinsale.
really like Kate
huh?
Beckinsale, huh?
Yeah.
What about you, J Rock?
What?
What about you?
What about me?
Games, the vampire games. I said V Rising. Frank Wallace said
Castlevania.
Castlevania. This isn't really what's it called?
Legacy of Kain.
Ooh, good one. Good one.
Legacy of Kain. It's very you're the anti-hero. You're there to get revenge, and you get turned into a vampire. It's Kain, and then of course you had the Soul Reaver series that came after that. But the very first one that came out on PlayStation 1, that was classic.
I do think one of my favorite ones that necessarily isn't primarily focused on vampires Darkstalkers.
Darkstalkers.
I think Darkstalkers is a good representation of what we enjoy, monsters.
Right.
Because you have the succubus, you have the vampire,
Yeah,
you have
but
the demon, you have
But the vampire there was awesome.
Yes,
His name
no.
was Dimitri.
you had Dimitri and you had Jeddah. Jeddah was a
Jeddah.
demon or a
Yeah.
vampire.
I think Jeddah was a demon,
Yeah, but
but Dimitri was kick ass.
yeah, Dimitri went crazy.
He looked like a Superman, all blue with a little ruffle tie.
And yeah,
and
like
a
his
cape.
hair back, not back, but like it was
Like,
like
it was
pointed
like
up.
pointed up. Yeah, it was great. So I think we covered all media.
Yeah, yeah.
So far, yeah.
Anything else?
In recent time,
Anything else?
I don't think so. Like the most recent thing I can think about only is Resident 8 because I love the game.
Resident Evil 8. That's right.
A good chunk of them, a good chunk of the people,
Lady, what's her name?
Lady Dimitrescu, yeah, and a good chunk of the monsters take inspiration from like media like that, like the Lycans.
Right.
They're werewolf people. You have the main villains, which are mainly vampires, and a good chunk of it is based on that type of media.
Right.
Like you had like there was like these half machine, half dead monsters, and they had like a thing in their heart that you had to shoot. So
All right. So I guess we're kind of closing out on vampires. So I'll give you each the floor so you can speak on what your thoughts are on vampirism.
love vampires. I think they should be in more media. I think we need more vampire related things, specifically Blade, but that's besides the point. But yeah, vampires are cool. I do find they're not my favorite monster of all time that has to go to the werewolf, but they're really cool. I think from a design standpoint and a historical standpoint, I think they are the most interesting. What about you, Mr. Walls?
Mr. Walls?
I think I agree with you, Mr. Valentine. I think we need more vampires, and I just want to shout out to the people that are doing the Blade movie. Please hire somebody that know martial arts, please. Otherwise, the movie's gonna be a flop, right? That's it. Yeah.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, and now, yeah, I like the mystique, everything about vampires. I was telling you for a while to do a vampire thing, and yeah, we need more movies there. Horror need to come back, but in a good way, you know. No more CGI, more yeah, effects, you know, but
Practicals.
less CGI, please. Yeah.
All right. The cool guy. The smooth talker. The guy who gets it all with little effort. That's what the vampire represents to me.
I thought you were talking about Keanu Reeves for a second. My bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, he has a good shot at being the ultimate vampire without having fangs, if you think about it.
Yeah.
But essentially, the vampire represents the amalgamation of all the things we desire. We want the cutest woman. We want the attention. We want the power.
It's like a James Bond.
We want longevity. We want immortality.
At what cost?
Bingo. There's a price to pay. And vampires
It's their humanity.
is that. They give up their humanity in order to achieve that. They sell their souls for that. It gives me the glimpse into that without having the desire to want to be that. Right? What makes it so cool is that it gets, every time we see it, it gets transformed, it gets stylized, it gets romanticized. It gets pitched and reshaped to something that fits the trend. Why? Because vampires are adaptable.
Yeah.
They fit the times. Why? Because they live for a long period.
But it will be sad seeing or your family died or your loved ones die or your
But
friends die.
vampires,
Pretty much that's why they end up being alone too. Like because
that's why they despise man.
they lost all their family members.
What is a
friends.
man? A miserable pile of secrets?
There you go. So now you got that from Castlevania. That was a quote from Dracula talking to Richter Belmont. He says, "What is a man?"
Miserable little pile of secrets?
But it was the idea that when you're human, and I'm gonna say it the way Neil Tyson the Graft, you get the pleasure of being alive because you will experience death. You understand?
Yeah.
So you'll learn to live. If you're immortal, living is guaranteed. So what are you living for
Exactly.
when you have experienced everything? That's what the vampire to me encapsulates. and we get the pleasure of being alive to see it, even if it's for a smidge. And I think that's a good way to close this out. Enjoy your vampire movies.
Yeah.
Take it all in. Read the books, read the stories.
Play the
and
games, watch the anime.
Yeah, I think they're great creatures, even great realities when you think about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Notwithstanding the bad things that come out of it, but they're great things to look at in terms
Great representations.
Yes. Thank you so much. Well
It's a
said.
great story. Great. They have really, really great story and interesting stories.
So yeah, that's what I think. And I think it's time for us to sign off.
Yeah.
So, Mr.
Thank you guys for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing to the Distorted Realities channel. Remember, we are pretty much all over the place. We are on Rumble, Twitch, YouTube, Buzzsprout, and if you guys like podcast, you guys can go to those podcast related websites. Thank you, J Rock and Frank Walls, for always having me here. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed.
All right, Mr. Mr. Walls.
Yes, aquí le hablamos en español. Muchas gracias por el apoyo. Espero que lo haya disfrutado. Recuerden que estamos en todas las plataformas ahora mismo. Puede chequear nuestra mercancía en YouTube. Está todo el link para la mercancía, los diferentes canales. Estamos en Buzzsprout, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. Son muchos ya, no sé ni cuántos. iHeartRadio, everywhere. Y gracias por el apoyo. Thank you for the support, and I really appreciate you guys. And I hope you like all this that we do for you. And thank you.
All right, folks. So to Max Meeks, Sarah, Kid Dan, Monster Culture, and everybody that was online chatting it up with us, thank you so much for joining in. We hope that everyone that's watching it on YouTube enjoyed it. We hope that you enjoyed it, listening to it. More stories to come, more origin stories, more discoveries to share, and make great conversation pieces of it. And just remember, when your curiosity is peaking, take a look. You never know what you find.
Discuss the unknown, discover your truths.
All right, there you have it. Distorted Reality signing out. J
Take care,
Rock, Frank
guys.
Walls, and Mr. Valentine. Later.
See ya, folks.
I want to suck your blood.